Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Stroke Empowerment Sessions. Today, I am joined by a special guest, Michelle Brown. She's coming in from Texas in the United States. She is an ischemic stroke survivor and super creative, and I am so honored to have you on today. Welcome, Michelle.
Hello, and thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. I love that shirt that you're wearing. It's very bright, vibrant, and colorful, matches your artistic flair behind you.
Thank you. I saw this and I had to have it. It's so pretty.
It is. So tell us a bit about you. We know you're an ischemic stroke survivor. Tell us about who you were prior to that.
Ooh, that's a good question. It's funny because most people don't ask me that question. But today, I'm actually excited to be able to answer that. I was a psychotherapist before the stroke, and I was a part-time professor at a university. And so I taught classes at the university level. I taught doctoral students, master students, and I had my own private practice. And and I did a lot of professional speaking. So I love doing motivational speaking and all of that good stuff. Love, love, love people, love helping people with their problems. So it's not a surprise that I'm doing what I'm doing today.
Okay. What is it that you're doing today?
Oh, I thought you'd never ask. So, as you can tell, I can be a little silly, but I love to have fun. What I'm doing today is after I suffered that stroke, I was in a hospital for a couple of weeks. When I came home, I had lost the use of my left arm and was having a very hard time grabbing things. And I couldn't like grab a cup. I couldn't grab a plate and hold it without dropping it. And so in my home, I remember one day telling my husband, I think we're going to have to childproof the kitchen. And he understood what I meant because I kept breaking all of our glass dishes and I would have to scream, "Hey, come get me." And I just have to stand there because I wasn't smart enough to wear shoes. Still don't. Uh, I don't like shoes. And so he would run down the stairs, grab the vacuum cleaner, and sweep the glass from around me and then carry me out. And then we would clean the glass up. And so what happened after that, I got tired of breaking all my dishes. And I put on my therapist hat and I said, what can I do that will force me to use my brain and force it to remember and learn how to grab things again? So I'm going to grab something now. I can grab things now, but I went to, we have here in America, like a store, drugstore, where you can get all kinds of different things that you need for the home, and it was Walgreens. And so I went to Walgreens and I picked up a very cheap paint set that had a little cheap brush in it that probably only cost 50 cents. And I forced myself I would hold my arm, with my other hand, and I would force myself to make circles. And I would do hours and hours of just making circles with the paint, forcing myself to make lines. And I did that for countless hours. And I just continued it. And then one day I decided to paint these little birds. At least that's what they were supposed to be. But I painted these birds and I was like, this is actually not bad. And I kind of liked painting. And so not long after that, about a month or two later, and this is about 6 months after my stroke, about a month after into all of this, I started just painting different little things that it looked like a kindergartner painted it. And I didn't care because I was having fun. And then maybe almost a year after, I painted something, and one of my friends said, I've said, so I love to do positive statements and send out to people and tell people to have a good day, have a beautiful day. I hope you will find happiness in your and joy in your day today. Always create something positive that I can send to people. So I started creating backgrounds, and I was called ugly backgrounds. I didn't care what they looked like. It was my art. And I will put these statements on the front of it. And one of my friends emailed me one day and she said, I am going to print this out, put it in the frame, and put it in my office. And I said, no, you're not, unless you pay me. And that was the first piece of art that I sold.
That's
So,
amazing. I love that.
and I've been painting ever since. I still use painting for my own therapy. Um, and we could talk about some of that. One of the things, like right now, sometimes when I'm really tired, because I still deal with fatigue, there are times when I'm very careful with people being around me and sucking the energy out of me, the life out of me. And so I try to be very careful with people that I hang around with. But even throughout the day, we all are using energy to blink, to smile, to talk, to laugh. Everything that you do after you have a stroke, it takes energy. It takes energy to move our bodies, to pick ourselves up out of bed every day, to put our arms through our shirts and our blouses and our pants. And it's exhausting.
It is the neuro fatigue. Most stroke survivors I know do have neuro fatigue. So, was that something that you find challenging? Is that something you find challenging post stroke?
So, so it is now. Well, fatigue was, I never really experienced that before until the stroke. And what happened was right after the stroke, and this is, I want to say this particularly to people who recently had a stroke. What happened to me was all of my family from Michigan, which is where I'm from, wanted to come here and spend time with me. And what they didn't know was they thought it was a blessing. It was not, because what it did, it exhausted the heck out of me. And it having to pay attention to all of the people and the conversations, all of the overstimulation is what it was. It was draining. And I found myself exhausted at the middle, not the end of the day, at the middle of the day. And I would literally have to almost run out the room and find a bed. So during that time, one of the things that they say is that, when after you right after you have a stroke, and you have to go through all that sleeping and all the relaxing and the resting, it's because our bodies are trying to heal themselves. And so my body was going through trying to heal itself, and I would have to walk away. Today, the reason why I'm tired is because I met with some friends this morning for coffee. And we must have sat and talked for 2 hours, and I'm sitting there like, you got to get up and get home because you're going to need your energy for later. And so I wasn't smart enough to leave. We sat there for 3 hours talking about absolutely nothing. Then I came home and I sat down and relaxed. And so here I am now. It's like what I say when I'm really fatigued is I tell my husband, I just hit a wall. And when I hit a wall, the way I feel is like, I just feel like that. I have like, it's like I'm a robot and the robot is energetic. And now all of a sudden,
I
no,
love that you've got that amazing insight into your own body, like how you listen to that and that's it. Like, if I do this now, I'm going to be tired later. Um, so what do you do to manage when that fatigue comes on, when you hit that wall? What strategies do you have?
I try not to hit the wall. Sometimes I think sometimes I'm a mom and I'm a wife. And I think sometimes we can overdo it. After you have a stroke, I think we have to be careful with overdoing it because when I hit a wall, I can't do anything else. I can't. I cannot function. I can't think. I could barely have the energy to walk to my bedroom. So I try to be very careful with hitting walls. I was hitting walls all the time for the first year and a half after I had the stroke until I became um, more cautious of what I'm doing throughout the day. So my husband, he knows that I cannot go to a restaurant and then go hang out and do something else. I can't. I just can't. Like say concerts, you cannot pay me to go to a concert anymore.
Yeah.
It's too exhausting for me. Mentally, it's too
Yeah.
exhausting. Physically, it's too exhausting. So we will go to dinner. Usually we'll go to dinner and a movie where they're together because I can handle that. But I don't do a lot of spend hours here and then go to a party over here. I'm too old for that anyway. But I'm just saying, I am careful how I spend my time and my energy now.
And
So I know what I
did you
have.
notice that early on, or do you think like the stroke happened suddenly? Prior to your stroke, you're a psychotherapist and you gave a lot of yourself to other people. Do you think that after your stroke, you tried to get back to, the amount of energy that you could use in a day prior, or did you just, no, this isn't going to happen, and you had to relearn how to conserve throughout the day?
When I got home from the hospital, I knew that I was not the same. And I didn't try to get back to being the same. I was like a little hamster, on the wheel, constantly running. And I knew that I didn't have that type of energy anymore. And there was nothing I could do about it. You know, I could tell when I would be in the kitchen cooking, things were drastically different. Whereas I could prepare a meal for, 50 to 60 people. Now, that was good if I could do, prepare a meal for 3. So there's definitely that a drastic difference in the energy that I am willing to expend on any given project. And I do also know I have about 6 hours of good energy per day. That's it.
And for you, that's the morning.
Well, I kind of stretch it out through the day.
Mhm.
So I spend a lot of time doing art. So this is my art studio that I'm sitting in. And so in the morning, I get up, I make breakfast for me and my family, and we sit outside. I love sitting outside. So we'll sit outside and I'll have my coffee and we'll just have, a little chit chat, or I'll just listen to music.
Mhm.
I'm not really expending that much energy. And so I would do that. Then I'll have lunch, I'll make sure that we all have lunch because I love cooking. So,
Yeah.
so I love to be in the kitchen as well. And after that, I'm here in my studio and I know that I have at least 2 to 3 hours and I sign in every day that I come up here. I keep track of all my hours. That way I know, and I also keep a timer on my phone. So when I hit that 2 hour mark, I'm done. No matter what I've painted, no matter what I've written, because I also keep a blog. When I hit that 2 hour mark, I'm done. If I go over it and I'm past 8 o'clock at night, I'm gonna hit a wall by 9.
Yeah.
So I had to be wise and listen to my body, and so whereas before I heard what my body was saying, but I pushed her anyway. I don't care if you're tired, we're gonna do this anyway. Now I don't do that.
Yeah. You've definitely learned how to listen to your body and what it needs and when to take a break. And if you don't, you get forced to have that break.
Yes. Yeah. My
So
body and I are now friends.
yeah, tell us a little bit more about your art and your blog.
So I started writing a blog because I wanted to, as a psychotherapist, I used to always try to encourage people to write about their stories. I've worked with women that had breast cancer and lung cancer. I've worked with women that had mastectomies, and I've worked with women that had lupus, and a lot of women who have had strokes, women who have had the heart attack, everything. And I talk to them about writing their stories to help someone else out there who is going through the same thing or worse. Most of them didn't listen. And so I think out of the hundreds of women that I worked with, one wrote her story. Um, and I always said that if anything happens to you, I'm gonna write my story. Um, so I started keeping a blog, and it initially started out with me talking to other people who have gone through what I've gone through, but then it turned into me being an artist. I never, ever in a million years saw myself becoming an artist. That was not in my wheelhouse. I never thought of becoming an artist. I mean, who would have thought it? And so now I am an artist. I do not have a problem calling myself an artist. Um, I'm still teaching myself a lot. I'm learning how to use watercolors. I'm learning how to use acrylics. I don't like oils, but I'm learning how to use oils. I painted my first oil painting last week. And I give myself that time to paint because it's relaxing. It's relaxing, and I'm in here creating, and it makes me smile. It makes me feel good. It makes me feel amazing when people are buying my art, especially when I feel like they want to buy that. And so it's cool. I love it. And someone said, people do ask me if I'm using my therapist skills, since after, having a stroke. Absolutely. I think that's why I've been able to be as strong as I am, according to what people say. They feel like, a lot of folks that know me personally feel like, I'm this very strong person and all of this. And it's not about me being strong, it's about me having the skills. I have the skills. I went to school for 7 years to learn how to work with people with, psychological problems. And my minor was in death education, as a matter of fact. And so death education is all about loss. It's about losing someone you love. Well, another part of death education is also about losing the use of a limb, or losing, the ability to use a part of your body. And when I had the stroke, there was a part of me that died. I had my identity died. It's like, who am I now? I used to be Dr. Joy. So who am I now that I'm not that? You know, um, I'm no longer doing psychotherapy, and I don't want to. That was another reason why I had to find something else to do to reinvent myself. And I think I found the perfect thing for me. I've already had my art shown in galleries, and I have some things coming up within the next couple of weeks. I'm having the time of my life.
I love that you're
you
so
know,
creatively inspired. Um, what, like you've just said, you're this psychotherapist, you worked with so many people, and then, this sudden onset of stroke, and now your whole identity has been obliterated. And like, who are you now? And look at you now, and you're shining and creative and inspiring, still helping so many other people.
and I think I was born a helper. When I was 12 years old, my friends used to call me the secret keeper. And so I still am the secret keeper. People talk to me about their stories, and I'm still encouraging people to write about their stories. Share your story, because there's someone out there who is on the verge of giving up all the time. And just to hear one person's story can help them to decide to reinvent themselves and find or create a new identity. So what? You had a stroke. Okay. So what are you going to do now? Get up off the floor and figure out what you're going to do. Drag yourself if you have to and figure out what you're going to do now. The other thing, after I had the stroke, I couldn't walk. I was bedbound. Then I was in a wheelchair, and then I started using a walker, and then I started using a cane. And I'll never forget when I wanted to go for a walk, but I couldn't. And I remember the first time I said, you know what? I'm going to just walk to the door. So I got my walker and I walked to the door. And I remember looking down the street out my front door, and I said, if I could just make it down to the mailbox, I can do this. And so I walked down to the mailbox, and I went to my neighbor's mailbox, not even my own. And so it's about, I would say about 500 feet from my front door. And so while I was at my neighbor's mailbox, I stood there. I said, you know, if I could just make it to that tree. And so the next day, my family were all out there. They're all walking with me to that tree. I made it. So I stood there and I said, okay, how many trees is that tree down there? So my nephew went to count the trees. It was 5 trees. I'm like, okay, 5 trees. Whew, okay. If I can make it to the 5th tree, I can walk a half a mile. If I can make it to the 5th tree, I can walk. Because I used to be a walker and a runner. When I made it to the 5th tree, I hugged that tree. I cried holding that tree. And I've been walking miles. I walk almost 2 to 3 miles every day now, you know, without my cane. Now, I still carry a walking stick, you know, but I walk most times without needing the walking stick, and I don't carry the cane unless I have to. I do carry my cane when I travel. When I'm going to go to the airport, because sometimes I'm standing way too long, but I became smart because I got a backpack that I can actually sit on now. So, so there are still things that I can, you know, that I'm limited in or disabled in, but you know what? I'm gonna make the best out of it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And you know, you shared that so beautifully, how we do have challenging times, but we've just got to keep moving forward,
Right.
keep looking forward, setting yourself those small, achievable goals, and then over time, looking back and seeing how far you've come.
I think one of the most important things out of everything that I've said is family support.
Mm-hmm.
I am a part of a lot of groups out there, and it just makes me very sad that so many people have family members that are not supportive. They're not supportive, they're not loving, they're not kind. And so if you find yourself in a situation like that, I would really encourage people to find support groups. In the support groups, a lot of times you'll find, and you may have to, you know, keep looking until you find one that you like, because they're not all the same. But there are a lot of people out here who have had strokes, and we support each other. No matter whether, the other issue I have with people who have had strokes, and I used to get this question in the beginning, and it kind of ticked me off. And people would say, well, you didn't have a severe stroke. What the heck do you mean? And I'm trying not to use expletives right now.
Yes, I hear that too.
What do you mean? I look like I'm okay. You
Yeah,
can't see it in me. But if I hit a wall, you'll see it.
yeah.
You definitely see it. Yeah.
I think you know, that compare despair happens at times for stroke survivors. And it can happen on the at the reverse too. There are times where I think, oh, well, you know, I can walk, I can talk, and this other person is it's having a really hard time with physical rehabilitation. But my life was completely impacted. I lost the vision in both of my eyes. I can't drive. I had children and I didn't have family support. So, while my challenges are mostly invisible to others, those challenges, that identity loss, that loss of support and everything was hugely impacted by my stroke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's, you have to be your own advocate. You have to. You cannot allow for people to take advantage of you, because they will. And my thing is, you can figure out a way to take control of your life and make it the way you want it. We can still live our dreams. We can. Now I may get a little fatigued, or a lot of fatigue. Sometimes I get muscle spasms in my neck. I still get horrific muscle spasms in my feet sometimes. But you know what? Sometimes I may have to cry. Sometimes I even have to scream because the pain is horrific. And but you know what? I'm not going to let it keep me down. I refuse to. I'll cry, I'll wipe my eyes, and I will keep it moving. So and that's the other thing. I can still laugh. I love laughing. I love having fun. I love playing. I love being silly. And I'm still alive.
Right. And appreciating those little things and those moments that matter and finding the joy in it and having that laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to wrap up shortly, but I just wanted to know from you, what advice would you give to, you had such an amazing family support. What advice would you give to other people who do have that family support, for their caregivers and support people to help somebody who has had a stroke?
One of the biggest things I would say is, if you have the support, lean on your family and be honest with them. One of the things that, just listen to me, you all can probably tell that I'm probably an honest person. I am very honest, very bold. I don't have a problem telling people what I think, but most people are not like me. When you're tired, tell people you're tired. And to family members, if you do nothing with this, recording, besides let your family member hear this. When they say they're tired, and leave them alone. People judge us by what they think they see. You cannot judge how tired I am by looking at me. You cannot judge how horrible I feel inside sometimes just by looking at me. And do not think that you have to explain anything to anybody. You had a stroke, period. That's it. Stop feeling like you have to explain who you are now and how you feel to everybody out there. If they don't get it, find someone that does. And find your support out there in other people outside of those that claim they love you. And I have pen pals that I write. I write my pen pals. We email each other all the time. And what I'm saying that because when you meet other people who have had strokes, support each other through either calling each other by phone, emailing each other, texting each other, and just create that circle of friends that you can have when you need them. We need each other. And so I just want to encourage everyone to find someone in the community that you can depend on, and reach out to people, reach out. Don't do this alone.
I totally agree. For me, after my stroke, I didn't have that strong support system. And so I did feel very alone and I did feel very isolated. I thought I was the only young person in the world that had had a stroke. I didn't know that this could happen to other people. And feeling so isolated, I was pretty depressed afterwards. And it took me a while before I realized and found Facebook groups and Instagram contacts and made friends and connected again. And that social and support is just so valuable to your mental and emotional well-being. So I totally agree what you're
Yes.
saying there. And also, if you don't have that family support, like you said, not every stroke group will be for you, but there will be people there for you.
Yes. Just keep looking, research it. And what you research is, it's like, well, what do you do? How do you find these groups that y'all are talking about? Hello, go on YouTube and just type in the word stroke survivor, stroke warrior. Same thing on Facebook, same thing on Pinterest, same thing on every social media outlet out there. Type in the word stroke survivor, stroke warrior, and then you will start getting all kinds of things coming up. And there's so much out there for us. And I also, one of the things about me, and I've talked to all of the groups that I belong to, you're going to be depressed at first. If this is your first year, there is going to be some depression.
Mm-hmm.
It is. And it's okay.
Yeah.
This is a traumatic change in our lives. And there's so much to think about. And this is difficult when you don't have support. It's difficult when you do.
Yeah.
With me being a psychotherapist, I was able to help and walk all of us through this. But that's because I have those skills,
Mm-hmm.
And so when you don't have those skills, and even if you do, still seek help.
Absolutely. Totally agree with you. So before we sign off, if anybody wants to connect with you, how can they find you?
So the best email to connect with me is through my email that is, actually, I just started a Facebook group page. So that's MJB, which is Michelle Joy Brown, Art Studio and Designs. So that's me, if you see that on Facebook. And my email is Michelle Joy Brown Studios with an S on the end. So that's Michelle with two L's. Michelle Joy, Joy, Brown, as in the color, Studios with an S at gmail.com. And listen, y'all, if you email me, I promise you, I will email you back because I like to talk. Can y'all tell?
Michelle, it has been such a pleasure having you on today and connecting with you and listening to all of your inspiration to keep motivated after stroke, because as we know, it is such a life-changing event. So thank you so much for sharing your creativity and your words of wisdom with us. And I'll put the links in when we share this recording so people can contact you and find you. Thanks for coming on today. I very, very much appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
You're welcome.